Thank you for pressing start on episode 90 of Underplayed, KZUM's indie video game podcast. Today we have two secret games, followed by a review of our featured game, The Banner Saga. Here on Underplayed, we review indie games of all kinds, the games with small budgets but big hearts, the lesser-known experiences with imaginative ideas. I'm Bo Poe, and I have a co-host. What's better than that? He's shaking his cake in Human Fall Flat, powering his radio with the turn of a crank, and playing through games till the backlog is blank. It's the 1,000 times resistant, Google form insistent, funky member of the Bomb Rush crew, DiscoCola. How do you do?
Man, it was a long trip here to the studio. I lost 25 Varl, 67 fighters, and 36 clansmen. But with just a day's worth of supplies remaining, I made it here. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. One of the warriors of an army that has, by a quick head count, at least 927 of you. Those are references to our featured game, The Banner Saga. This is a game that came out in 2014. 2014, this game released. This is one of the oldest games from this season that we're featuring, and it's also the first in a trilogy of games. And so we've both played it recently. We're going to be talking about it as a featured game later on in the episode. Very excited. I have ideas about what you feel about the game. I'm kind of hoping for a surprise here and there about what you're feeling about it, but I'm kind of anticipating.
Yeah.
I'm anticipating. I'm bracing a little bit.
Yeah.
So we'll get into it. It'll be fun. Now, we're 2 episodes into season 9 of our show. And on the second episode of every season, we do talk about some games we've been looking forward to. Some games that might be coming out in the next year or maybe the year after that. I know we've talked about games in the past that still haven't released. These things happen. So we've each come with, I think, 3 games. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about some things that are exciting us. These might come from showcases where we learned about them. They might come from seeing them on social media or by word of mouth from friends, just any source, really, that we've heard about these games. What is the first game that you want to talk about and really hype up that's coming up in the future?
So this one, I think, is probably the most well-known of the 3. It's called Petal Runner. Petal Runner is like this Game Boy Color-inspired game that seems mostly inspired by Pokemon. It seems kind of also inspired by Zelda, and maybe a touch of Digimon in there with the little like V-Pet little device. Anyways, I love modern retro games that put these sort of like color limitations on themselves and just make something that looks really pretty. It's just like Curse Crackers, plus it's Creature Collector. So it seems like a pretty easy pick for me. The only downside to games like that is that they tend to be like longer.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the downside, and I don't know when I'll ever have time to play it if that's the case. But we'll see. This
is one of those games that showed up in multiple showcases.
Yeah.
And it is so attractive because it has a very distinct color palette. Lots of pinks and bright greens and purples, like a lot of your favorite colors.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so I think this is visually distinguishable, visually memorable, and I don't really go for the classic Pokemon games. I didn't grow up with them.
I didn't either.
Oh, you didn't?
No,
Okay.
I didn't. My first Pokemon game was Pokemon Sapphire, and I didn't even play that until after Gen 5 had come out.
I had no idea about that. I thought you were kind of there alongside Pokemon, at least closer to when they came out in those early generations.
No, I always liked Pokemon and tried to keep up when like new Pokemon came out and see what all the new designs were. But that was about the extent of it for me for a long time.
Well, this, despite me not really growing up with those games and having a history with them, this looks really cool. And it kind of, it looks like there's more going on than what is meeting the eye at first.
Mm-hmm.
Like being on a bike, doing all these side activities, exploring this town. You have a Tamagotchi sort of system going on. You're taking care of pets. It looks cool. It looks really sweet and cute. My first game that I want to talk about today is a game that I saw an announcement trailer for not too long ago. It's called Ikuma the Frozen Compass. And this is developed and published by Moon Eye Studios, who published Smushy Come Home.
That's
and they
right.
also made a game called Lost Ember. And I think that was a very successful game that allowed them to start publishing in addition to developing.
I think I looked at that for a secret game one season and ultimately didn't end up going with it. But yeah.
Yeah, well, it's Lost Ember is one of those many indie games about foxes that I always get mixed up with other indie games about foxes. And I actually see that Lost Ember got a rekindled edition in November of 2025. And I think that kind of slipped past a lot of people's radars. But anyway, this is Moon Eye returning to developing. And it is about, you know what? I'm just going to read the Steam synopsis. It says, embark on a haunting journey into the cold in this narrative adventure, either alone or with a friend. Ikuma tells the story of Sam, a teenage boy who finds himself stranded in the Arctic with his dog. He must face not only its harsh environment, but also something lurking deeper in the shadows. And it's that last part, lurking deeper in the shadows, that's making me curious. This game looks super cinematic. The trailer has just really high production value. And it does this thing where it goes from cinematics to gameplay, and you see Sam and his dog in the Arctic with really bright, beautiful colors going on. And it does the down the middle split screen thing that you might see in like Split Fiction or It Takes Two. And so I definitely see how the 2-player thing is working. It seems like one of the players is playing as the dog, one of the players is playing as Sam, but you can also play the game solo. I like that flexibility. That's really cool. And I just think this game looks gorgeous. So I love an adventure game. I love an atmospheric game. That's what this game looks to be offering.
Cool. I am into that. Next, I want to talk about Super Alloy Crush. This is one I think I just happened to come across my timeline on Bluesky or something. I'll read the Steam description real quick. Super Alloy Crush is a fast-paced 2D roguelike brawler inspired by classics like Mega Man X. Play as Kelly and Moo to defeat enemies and obtain ultimate cosmic treasure, planet AE38. Alone or with friend in local co-op, get ready for your biggest challenge yet.
Another single or multiplayer game.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I knew that part. I didn't know that it was a roguelike, but I could have assumed that based on the trailer. But yeah, anyways, it looks like really attractive Mega Man-like with great character designs, and the music in the trailer sounds really good. That's really all there is to it. It might be the next Elsie, you know. It's I don't know.
You just play for dozens of hours.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. It says in the trailer 2025 coming soon, but the page was created at the end of 2025. So I don't even know. And I don't know when it's coming out.
On the Steam store page, it just says to be announced. Doesn't have even a year, but it looks like it will also come to early access first, which means a version of the game will be available to purchase, and then they'll probably seek player feedback and update the game as time goes on and make it the best experience it can be. I think that's always exciting when an attractive game goes into early access. And, you know,
I usually don't mess with early access. I just wait. But yeah, I'm craving Mega Man likes. I watched you playing Gravity Circuit the other night, so I'm just in a mode. Right now.
I love it. Someday I need your ranking of Mega Man like indie games.
I think I could probably give that to you.
Yeah, I mean, you've played around. Seems like a dozen by now.
And I assume I will be playing yet another one for the Gravity Circuit episode.
You assume? No confirmations yet.
Nope.
Yeah.
But I could probably give you that in the Gravity Circuit episode.
Okay.
So
cool. Well, also I would play that co-op with you. It looks like it's going to be shared split screen, and then also maybe, I don't know if it has the traditional just like online co-op, but we could do something like Steam Remote Play, I think, and make that work.
Yeah.
My next game I want to talk about is a Metroidvania, and it's a very cute Metroidvania developed and published by Gentle Giant. I think this is their first game. I'm checking to see if they've published other games. Yeah, it's just Mono Moon. So this is called Mono Moon. And the Steam page says, in Mono Moon, the way forward is reserved for the knowing and the daring. Guided by moonlight, you'll uncover hidden truths and wander through a tiny and mysterious open world. So what caught my eye about this is how cute it is. You just play as a little guy in this dark world. It's kind of giving Animal Well, but lighter and a little bit more approachable maybe. I think this is going to be a Metroidvania with one of those approachable worlds. It's not going to be that daunting, I think, to make your way through this world. I can't promise how long it will be, but I'm just getting like more of a relaxed vibe from this, more of a cozy Sunday afternoon Metroidvania vibe from it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're guiding this guy by, it seems, moving this little moon around on screen. And I don't actually know how it works. I haven't looked into it too much, but it's kind of got a point and click thing going on with a Metroidvania. And we see this all the time where genres are blended together in the indie landscape. I don't recall ever having seen a Metroidvania and a point and click like sort of feature added in. And so I want to see how that works in practice. I just think it looks so adorable. So that's why I picked it.
I'm not seeing the little guy like do a lot of actions apart from moving and jumping. So if I had to assume in my head, and I'm gonna map this to a controller in my hands, you move around the little guy with the D-pad and you like press up to jump, and you don't focus on the action buttons on the right side, and then you control the moon with the right stick.
Yeah, that's probably what's going on. That would make sense in my mind too. As I scroll further down the Steam page, it is a self-professed Metroidbrania, which is a term that's been attributed to games like Animal Well. So maybe it's a little bit more daunting than it appears, but it's got a very adorable exterior, at least. So
it's reminding me of like Ooh a little bit too.
Yeah.
Not as complicated, but
it says it utilizes both the keyboard and mouse. Controllers are also supported. All puzzles and secrets can be solved by playing the game solo, and all clues exist within the game itself. However, we encourage discussing your playthrough with a friend to share knowledge and hints with one another. Okay, I think this is actually going to be a hard game.
Okay.
But I tend to have one game every year where I do that. I share my experience with people that I know who are also playing it, and we kind of tackle it together. We share our knowledge. I call them playground games because it's like you're gathering around the play set at recess, and you're sharing what you accomplished in the game last night. And, oh, I found this. Have you found that? No, I haven't found that, but I've done this. Oh, I haven't even done that. So maybe it's one of those games for 2026, assuming it comes out this year. Oh, it is. It does say 2026 on the page.
Nice. Yeah. And those games, those playground games seem to stick with you the longest.
Yes.
You personally, from what I've known.
They really do.
Cool. Does that mean it's my turn?
Absolutely.
All right. The last one I'm going to mention is called Zward. That's Zwaard. The Steam description says, craft your ultimate sword by scavenging parts in a post-apocalyptic world. Navigate an expansive open world relying on the might of your customized blade to overcome dangerous species infected by mysterious technology.
Okay, I know what game this is hearkening back to, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the trailer, it just seems so heavily inspired by Hyper Light Drifter. It's got a mix of like pixel art, but also low poly in the same arena. And so there's a little bit of like unsighted there. I just think it looks really attractive. I'm not like 100. I don't care as much about the customizing of the sword itself, I guess, but the gameplay looks a lot like Hyper Light Drifter. The world looks a lot like Hyper Light Drifter. And so I just think it looks cool.
I'm fascinated by the sword parts collecting, actually. I'm wondering if collecting a set of sword parts, is that going to give you a special set bonus?
Something we were
those
talking
kinds of things
about in Wheel World.
And I think this is fresh on my mind because of Wheel World, but it's like, give me the hot dog sword, where it's all the parts are parts of a hot dog. Zward is probably not going to do that. But This is published by Top
Top
Hat Studios, and they published Crypt Custodian. And this immediately reminded me of Crypt Custodian with the perspective too. That's kind of a coincidence.
Yeah.
And then they also published Frogun
Yeah.
and Windswept, other games we've talked about. Very cool.
Looking forward to that.
My last game I want to talk about is called Moves of the Diamond Hand. Now, this is listed as coming soon, no year on this. It's developed and published by Cosmo D Studios. They previously made some games I haven't played, like the Norwood Suite and Off Peak, Betrayal at Club Low. Haven't touched these games myself, but I happened to play a demo for this in a Next Fest in 2025. And the Steam page says, immerse yourself in a first-person urban RPG powered by dice and intrigue. Along the way, you might even shape the fate of a city, become a master of disguise, a master sandwich maker, or something else, whatever it takes to get the gig, right? This is also coming soon to early access. And the best way I can describe this from what I remember about it, it's kind of hazy in my memory, is that this is a very strange world where everything is controlled by dice rolls. So the page says it's a full embrace of the tabletop RPG experience. It evokes the feel of a multi-session tabletop RPG experience. Your stats are all represented as dice. These dice offer opportunities for drama and strategy. Items are dice. Conditions are dice. Disguises are dice. These dice are all customizable in a myriad of different ways. Still, players have control over which dice to use, how to upgrade them, and which ones they want to roll or keep close. This is one of those games where I feel like to kind of get a grasp of what it looks like and what it feels like, you should look up the trailer. It looks bizarre. Like it's got some weird Arctic eggs ass feels
It's
going
bizarre
on.
going on in here, man.
It's strange.
Yeah.
It's abstract, but still guided by numbers and stats and rolling things. You just simply won't be able to perform some things unless certain stats are high enough. And you've got stats related to, now I'm looking at the iconography in the trailer. I'm not going to remember the exact terminology from the demo, but stats related to reading books, using your fists, music, maybe luck or chance, cuisine or dining is kind of playing a role. This is really hard to describe. I think you have to just like see it to start to try to understand it. And I just love weird games. This is a super weird game that I heard about on socials last year. And so I looked into it. There was a demo during a Next Fest and I played it, and I don't think I even finished it. I played it like, 15 minutes. I was like, this is weird, and I love how weird it is. I closed it. And I never played it again.
So we have this group chat that have all of our friends from high school in it, essentially, like all of our close friends from high school. And I had the rare instance of like having a game recommendation for our friend who goes by Red Oak online. I don't have a lot of like similar game interests to him, so I got to share one with him, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. This might be one that I would recommend to our friend that goes by Caboose online, because it's sort of the same situation there where I don't have. He seems to mostly just play like Fallout New Vegas anymore.
Oh,
so yeah. That plus I know that he is involved with board games a lot. Maybe this, and he likes weird crap too. So maybe this might be a Caboose game. I don't know.
I love that. I love that you thought of him for this. I think it's for tabletop nerds. It's for people who like weird RPGs, experimental games. I think all of that combined is going on here. And I played the demo and I still can't really properly explain it. So there you go.
I'm thinking of like jazz punk a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. That's a great comparison. I got jazz punk, Arctic eggs from this. Yeah, definitely. So those are some games we're looking forward to coming up. Some of them will come out in 2026, no doubt. Maybe some will come out in 2027, but I really hope they come out sooner rather than later.
Yeah, always.
We're going to move on, but before we do, there are a few very easy ways to support Underplayed. They cost nothing, and they take almost no time at all, so we would really appreciate if you just took a moment to do some of these things for us if you haven't already. One, you can give us a follow and a 5-star rating on the podcast platform you might be listening to this on. Maybe it's Spotify, maybe it's Apple Podcasts, maybe it's something else. That will make us appear more consistently for you and for others. Another thing you can do is follow us across social media using the links in our show notes. We're in places like Bluesky and Instagram and others. So if you want to connect with us and see what we're thinking about and sharing, go ahead and follow us. And 3, sharing our podcast by reposting our social media stuff and telling your indie game loving friends about us means a whole lot. And as always, we love you. Thank you so much for listening. It is time for our secret games.
Secret games. Secret games. Secret games. Secret games.
Secret Games is our segment where we each review an indie game we've been playing quietly since our last episode. I've never quite said it that way.
For the record, I play all my games quietly. I'm keeping it down at home.
He's not saying anything. We don't discuss our picks in advance. We keep them a surprise for this very moment. Any indie game can be chosen as long as we have not talked about it on Underplayed before. Starting with you, DiscoCola, let the mystery be no more. Reveal your secret game for episode 90.
My secret game is totally going to surprise you. This episode, my secret game is a shmup from Lilymo Games called Habroxia.
Oh, I've played this.
You've played this.
I've played this multiple times.
Oh my God. So I sent you screenshots super early and you absolutely would have been able to identify the game.
I didn't look. That's
lucky.
crazy. So Disco sent me an email the other day before sitting down to record this. He sent me an email with the subject line like, don't open this until we record our Banner Saga episode. So I didn't open it. It contains his screenshots that he wants to share on social for Habroxia. I think that's how you say it. Or Habroxia. I don't know, actually.
That would be interesting.
I've played this on PlayStation 4 and I've played it on PlayStation Vita, and I think I own the PlayStation 5 version because I have the PlayStation 4 version perhaps. And when I was hunting trophies, this is one of the games that I played to I heard that it was both an easy platinum.
Is it?
And also it was fun.
Okay.
Right? Because a lot of games where you get an easy platinum
are just like garbage.
Are junk games.
Yeah.
Habroxia is several steps above, I think.
Yeah.
So my trophy hunting days are kind of in my past. This is from a past life where I played this. But this is one of the few shmups that I have played to completion, not just once. Yeah.
Wow. So if it's an easy platinum, I might because I played this on Cancer Trophies, assuming that I would not have the skill to do it.
It's not a complete breeze, but I didn't have a tough time with it.
Awesome.
I had to replay stages. I had to rack up kills, I think. I had to get some secrets in some stages. But yeah, you can get it, I think.
Okay. Well, I might just do that.
Yeah. So sorry to hog the start there. But
no, you're good.
Yeah, give us an intro to Habroxia for people who don't know.
In Habroxia, story-wise, it's a pretty standard affair for a shmup. If there is a story at all, you're a human pilot whose name I don't even remember because it's not really all that important. And in this future where humanity has colonized beyond Earth, humanity finds itself at odds with an alien armada that threatens mankind across the solar system. So pretty standard stuff. As for gameplay, when it comes to shmups, there's multiple different flavors of shmup for those that are unfamiliar. There's the side-scrolling left to right. There's the side-scrolling up to down. And I found that the, down to up side-scrollers tend to have like bombing mechanics so that there's like a second layer underneath you. And then there's the occasional 3D shmup. There's on-rails shooters, which are kind of its own thing, but I sort of consider to be in the same family as shmups. And then there's the most intimidating and increasingly common bullet hell shmup, which I tend to avoid. But in this case, Habroxia is the side-scrolling shmup, mostly from left to right, which is my favorite flavor. But notably, it does occasionally switch it up, going to the like down to up flavor, but only like 3 or 4 times throughout the game.
I was very surprised when it did that.
That first time it did that, I was like, is this a big boss coming? I can't control my ship. And then you're just like, you're moving up. And I'm like, oh.
Actually, big respect for that because I wasn't detecting a whole lot that was like super, I guess, unique about this game until it started doing things like that.
Yeah.
And so that is one thing I always remember about it.
Yeah. And then continuing with gameplay, instead of gaining upgrades during each level, which you do get, what the main thing you're doing is picking up credits from enemies and bosses, and you use that as currency to permanently upgrade your ship in between levels. That's pretty uncommon in shmups that I'm familiar with.
Usually
or
you're,
if at all.
Usually you're upgrading as you go, but then when you lose all your lives, you're starting back over.
Yeah.
And you've likened a lot of the classic shmups to the idea of a roguelite. I don't think a lot of people think of them in the same conversation, but I think that, the elements are there of like you're starting over. And I remember playing a Flash game that was like a shmup. I don't remember what it was, but when I was a kid, I played one that did have this permanent upgrade thing going on between runs. And I thought it was the coolest thing that I could save my credits and buy something that would persist. And here's a game that's more modern, very accessible, that does that in a way that's just very satisfying. It gives me the good brain juice.
Yeah, no, totally. And like I have notes hidden somewhere of like a shmup I was planning to make someday, and it had like permanent upgrade stuff in it too. And I thought I was like breaking new ground here, but someone beat me to it. But yeah, your upgrades include stuff like rate of fire, fire spread for your bullets so that you can reach more enemies at once, bullet damage, health that you start the level with, and there's more. So in this sense, it's a little bit, like you said, like a roguelite, but it's extra light roguelite. You're getting permanent upgrades, but you still have to like do the runs first. And then you can replay levels if you want. That's something that you don't always get to do in shmups. It's usually like a linear path to the end until you die. But in this one, it allows you to replay levels so that you can grind and get more upgrades if you'd like to. And then you play through something like 14 or 15 levels, and then you run credits. And it's a pretty short and sweet experience, or you can choose to keep playing it more. So yeah, that's Habroxia as far as things that I really want to point out. Generally speaking, I just really like this game. It was really satisfying to play pretty much from beginning to end. Visually, the pixel art delivered on all I want from a side-scrolling shmup. I was perfectly happy with what I was looking at pretty much at all times. The music is pretty solid, 8-bit inspired music. It reminds me of all the old shmups I wish I'd played more growing up. Now, another thing that Habroxia did that's unique to me that I haven't experienced is that you have 2 different shooting buttons. One of them like shoots up and down on the screen simultaneously,
That's right.
and the other shoots forward in front of your ship. But then if you press them both down at the same time, it does this like drastic spread in front of your ship instead of just like straight ahead. So this is something that I hadn't seen before, and Habroxia actually like sets up instances where it makes sense to switch between the 3 different shot styles.
Yeah.
Like it builds that into the stage. So you're actually not forced to, but you do better if you read the room and react accordingly with these like different shooting styles. And it just made for a more thoughtful level design, in my opinion, for a shmup.
Yeah, we've gotten options to change up how we shoot things, but when it's encouraged to, there's just that like extra step where it feels justified. I guess it feels like, it's a conscious decision they made to make this extra shooting style, and it's called for, and it like feels good to remember to switch to it.
Because like so often in shmups, I just lay on the horn constantly
Mhm.
and just let the bullets fly no matter what.
Yeah, because I've got to avoid the enemy bullets and the enemies flying at me. And if
Mhm.
I just put something on autopilot, which is just holding down my shoot button, that's one less thing I have to worry about.
Yeah. But this game encourages just a little bit more thought if you want it. And then I love the upgrade system of Habroxia. One of the things that has prevented me from exploring more shmups, especially bullet hells, is just like a precision skill ceiling. And just with a lot of these kind of games, I just simply can't succeed at playing them. But one of the things that would help me reach the end of those games is a permanent upgrade system.
Yes.
And for a while there, I found no cap on upgrades, but some of the upgrades do cap. And then, like, as far as upgrades go, the difficulty curve also is really nice. I don't think I'm stuck grinding on any level more than 3 times before I move on. And then the middle third of the game, I was able to get through like several levels in a row without any grinding at all. So
Mhm.
I really like the difficulty curve of this game, and it's just a really satisfying upgrade system. As far as things that didn't stick so well with me, honestly, the game's maybe a little bit too easy. I know that that's the reason I picked it, because it was a 2 to 3 hour game, but it was even still a little bit easier than I anticipated. And while I don't think I want to be overwhelmed with like large amounts of enemies on the screen like most shmups, I think I would have liked just like, I don't know, maybe more substantial bosses or something. Because there are a lot of levels that have bosses at the end, and they're
Yeah.
most of them are pushovers.
I don't remember any of them. Granted, it's been a couple years since I last played this. I think I revisited it on the Vita
Yeah.
a couple years after I played it on PS4. Don't remember those. And it has 15 levels, but each level's just a few minutes long.
Yeah.
You know, like it doesn't take long to get through this game. Other shmups that have, you know, levels that you could number out, the levels might take, you know, multiple times the amount of time that the levels here take to beat.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a short game. There aren't a lot of big like moments like that.
Yeah,
Like a-
and the bosses, which makes sense in the story, I guess, they're just like robots or ships, but like I'm thinking about like the bosses in Darius games that are just like these big fish ships or like a giant scorpion robot. It's just
yeah, what if we had a scorpion or a fish in space?
yeah, it just stands out. And like R-Type has these like really grotesque bosses too. Anyways, that's the one thing I can think of that maybe would have like padded it out a little bit more in a way that didn't feel cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Next, I guess that's its own complaint. There's only like 5 or 6 bosses, and then palette swapped versions of previous bosses. So I would have liked more creativity there. My biggest complaint is that I didn't really know how all the systems worked right away, which, you know, is a throwback. Old games just sort of throw you into
Yeah.
the pool. But noticing that there were 2 different shot buttons took me a minute, not to mention that it took me a bit to even figure out which buttons were the shoot button. I was pressing triangle and square and circle and X and nothing happened. And so it took me a little bit. And then I was starting to get like special weapon pickups, and I didn't know how to use all of them. And even now, there's one weapon that I think I figured out what it does, but some things are mysterious. But yeah, that about does it. I've been excited to try more shmups, and while Habroxia wasn't necessarily on the top of my list for my first Underplayed shmup, it's definitely a great start to trying more.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like something I'd happily play again just for fun, just to upgrade my ship more and more. And I think this is the perfect baby's first shmup, and I would recommend it to anyone interested in the genre. I wouldn't have minded just a little bit more of Habroxia in general, more bosses, something. So as such, I give Habroxia an 8.0 out of 10.
That makes sense. And I think this is a good baby's first shmup. I agree with that. It is not like a total pushover game, but it's going to be a breeze compared to your bullet hells.
Mm-hmm.
At most, it's going to be a bullet heck for you, right?
Yeah.
I don't have any questions about this because I've played it, but just a real quick anecdote I wanted to share over the holidays. My dad bought himself one of those one of those consoles.
The
that you-
1-Up arcade machines? Is that what you're talking about?
No, it's
Okay.
it's like I wouldn't even know what brand it is. It's a machine. It's probably not even legal, but it's something he found on like Amazon or something. It's one of those consoles that collects tons of ROMs from tons of classic consoles into one box. And he's like, "This is great! Like, tens of thousands of games on here." And he and I got into Galaga, and this is one of those emulator devices that has save states. And we weren't playing classic, like the original 1981 Galaga or whatever year it was. It was like a Galaga from the 90s, but it was still like the same spirit of Galaga, where you're in a ship just scrolling side to side. There are waves of aliens. And so this game was super unfair because things just kill you out of nowhere. And I prefer like the original Galaga, but the essence was there. And so we were doing save states. Like every time we'd die, we'd go back so that we could try to get the right upgrade. And so that's my most recent sort of game like this that I've played. And it was actually very recently over the holidays.
That's
it was
awesome.
fun. Yeah.
My parents very possibly got me and each of my siblings the very same thing that you're talking about. I tried to hook that up just to see what was on there. And the controllers that came with it are pretty nice for what it looks like, a DualSense essentially, which was nice.
I think my dad may have gotten the exact same thing. Yeah.
But I couldn't play it because all of my televisions are too old. And it's like, if you look at the box that this thing came in, it says it's a 4K device or whatever.
Oh.
And I don't have any TV near enough to that power. So I can't play it yet.
Damn.
But
that sucks.
sometime.
And the irony with that machine having tons of games from like the 80s and 90s, like games that are older than your TV. Wow. Well, that's cool that you played Habroxia. There's a Habroxia 2.
I know. Yeah.
It's out. I haven't played it. But also, I wanted to point out East Asia Soft is, in my mind, it's a Chinese equivalent to Ratalaika Games, which published like Metagal, which you've talked about before. Both publishers that have just published lots of smaller games and games that have been very popular in the trophy hunting community the past decade or so. Okay, we'll move on now to my secret game. My secret game is The Drifter.
I know what you're planning. I'm not gonna let you do it.
Security, he's back again. If you have something to say, you'd better make it quick.
Seen any strange men in all black tactical gear, night vision goggles?
No, I have not.
They're working for Trinity Biotech, abducting people.
You have a very active imagination.
I'm Sanjay. Welcome to the lab.
What's this about, Doc?
The very thing we're all here for. Mr. Carter and his ability to go back in time, to change things.
Luke, you can't keep running from the past.
You don't have to do this.
Mr. Carter will trigger the phaser. You will merely be along for the ride. But you should not dally.
Annie! Oh my God.
Make your decision.
Hey! We need help in here!
Nice. I didn't think it would show up so soon.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be later in the season.
So this is one of those not so secret games because I did stream this on twitch.tv/BO__PO. You didn't know I was going to pick it necessarily for the show.
No,
and even if you suspected, you didn't know when.
Yeah, right? I had a feeling. I felt like you couldn't let this one get away from Underplayed.
Drift.
Yeah.
I couldn't because I've also previously talked about my anticipation for this game on our show. It's been a while, but I was really looking forward to this. I had played the demo in an X-Fest and I just thought it was super strong. And that demo was the opening chapter or two, and I just found it to be really gripping. So I wanted to play the full game. This just came out in 2025. It's a point-and-click adventure thriller mystery game developed and published by Powerhoof. The game synopsis from the Steam storefront reads, quote, "A pulp adventure thriller. A murdered drifter awakens, alive again, seconds before his death, Hunted and haunted, help him untangle a mad web of conspiracy in this fast-paced point-and-click thrill ride, end quote. So this is a 2D pixel art point-and-click game. This game is pulpy.
Yeah, this is a word that I don't know the definition of. I've never seen pulpy as an adjective before.
The term like pulp and pulp fiction, right, traces back to sensational, action-packed, ridiculous stories.
Okay.
And just getting to the action, getting to the excitement without a lot of depth. I will say this game has a lot of depth with its lore. So there's a lot going on sci-fi wise in this game. But this game is pulpy, not unlike another game I've played before for our show, Mothman 1966.
Okay.
But The Drifter has many more situations, many more kinds of gameplay that you're doing, and a much longer story. Mothman 1966 just being a couple hours long. This took me multiple times that to finish. This is a noir mystery tale set in Australia where you play as Mick, who is a drifter on his way to his mom's funeral. And all is not well in this world. Mick is entrenched in this subculture of unhoused people who are in danger. So early on, Mick is in a boxcar. He's with a homeless man, and that man is shot by someone we don't know. And Mick himself is thrown into a situation where he dies, but he resurrects in what seems to be a cycle. And there are these folk legends of a species or a group called the Malingi and another person named the Bucket Butcher who may be responsible for homeless people going missing. So you're hearing all these rumors about these strange forces, these strange people, these strange creatures. Mick is carrying demons from his past, which creep back up, and not everything is what it seems. So The Drifter is psychological. It's a thriller. It's got sci-fi. It has mystery. It has a bit of horror. There's some pulp neo-noir stuff going on. There's tons of Australian accents too. So throw all of that in a blender, you get The Drifter.
Yeah.
So it's truly unlike any other narrative-focused game I've played. It has a sizable supporting cast, including Mick's sister, Annie, a reporter named Angela, and a detective named Agent Hera. There's also Mick's ex-wife, Sarah, and many more characters that we meet throughout the course of this story. This is a point-and-click game, so you're exploring various locales. You pick up items. You combine the items in your inventory sometimes in order to use them. You're talking to people. You're making selections on what to do. You're finding the right combination of choices to progress and solve puzzles. I'm actually not as familiar with your experience level with this genre. Have you played a lot of point-and-click games? Because I personally have not. I haven't played like a ton.
Nah, most of them are from Amanita at this point, but
Okay.
like Machinarium,
Yep,
Happy
that counts.
Game.
Yes.
Those are the two that come to mind immediately. So, I mean, not a ton. Before Underplayed, I had not played pretty much any.
Yeah, and I've barely played any. I've gone back to some classic ones, and I've tried playing games like Grim Fandango, which was a really lauded one from the 90s, and that one was very obtuse for me and hard to navigate without a guide. I'd say The Drifter is a lot more approachable, and it's got this classic look. It looks like a game from maybe the 90s, but it's got a lot of modern sensibilities with it. And the goal in this game is just to navigate this world. And I would say the goal is just to like move your way through the game and see what happens. Because it seems like your goal is to get to this funeral. That is just scratching the surface. And there's a lot to spoil about the game. But at the same time, I don't know how I would spoil the game because there's a lot going on. So what I liked about The Drifter is this game is absolutely bonkers. It is crazy. This game has twists and turns, developments of all shapes and sizes. It is a white-knuckled hold on your seat to see what the hell happens experience.
Yeah, I watched you stream this for like an hour at a time, several different times, and to see you get from this point in this stream to this point 2 streams later, I couldn't have even connected the dots.
And it's like I'm playing the game and I'm almost losing track of how I got from point A to point F, right? Which I'll get into soon, but it is the most sensational, action-packed point-and-click game I've played. Each chapter is very distinct too, so I can easily look at a moment of gameplay and I can kind of tell you, okay, I think this is like from chapter 2 or 3, or this is from chapter 6 or 7. Like, just very distinct things are happening in each chapter. There's one chapter that is just burned into my memory for what it is and what Mick is going through in the chapter and where he is and who he's talking to. And no other chapter is remotely like that chapter. And it is a visceral chapter. I'll just say that. It is very memorable. But all the chapters have something memorable going on. And the pixel art is state of the art. I really love the pixel art here and the animation of the pixel art.
It's very attractive.
It's very attractive. Even just standing still in environments, the breathing of the environments with candlelight and natural light and characters just standing idle. I just don't see pixel art being this thoroughly alive in a lot of games. It looks so good. The voice acting is exceptional too. There's an actor named Adrian Vaughn who's playing Mick, and he's voicing every line. Every line is voiced in this game from all the characters, but Adrian is giving a killer central performance with a ton of emotion. There are times where Mick is in a lot of pain. He's a very tortured character, and he brings a lot of that emotion to the role. I also really like how this game feels to control with a gamepad. That was central to my experience, was not using mouse and keyboard, but using a gamepad. I found it to be really intuitive. At all times, you can use one of your sticks to rotate on a wheel to select things in the environment and a trigger button to select it. And I just thought in this game in particular, it felt really good. I will get to some dislikes now. There were times I got stuck because I needed to talk to the same characters or perform actions repeatedly. And I didn't feel like the need for that was always clear. So even though this game kind of bills itself as a more approachable point and click game that keeps rolling and doesn't get you as stuck as other games, I agree with that. There are times where I got stuck just because I didn't realize I need to talk to this character like 4 times. That's the only way I will progress. Or I need to use this item on this thing multiple times. And that wasn't clear to me. So I found myself walking around, going back and forth in some places aimlessly until I figured out, oh, I need to do this repetitive action. That's my ticket.
Yeah. So for me, like talking to characters until they start repeating dialogue, that's basically just like a base instinct for me. But doing the item thing never would have occurred to me.
Yeah. And I'm that way too with dialogue in this game. It wasn't always clear to me. And also I was streaming the game. So it might not have occurred to me as often to repeat dialogue options until I started to hear the same thing. But yeah, the using items, sometimes that really threw me for a loop. Also, this game has 9 chapters. I know it has an epilogue. I think it has a prologue too, but 9 like primary chapters. And each of the chapters took me around like 2 hours on average to finish. And so I had looked at how long to beat before going into this game. I saw that it was around 8 hours to finish the game. I ended up spending 20 hours to finish this game.
And some of that's stream time.
A lot of it is, to the game's credit. It's me like reading chat, taking BRBs. So that is going to elongate my playtime. But like all that stuff aside, if you strip out all that stuff, this game still took at least double the amount of time that I expected it to take.
Yeah.
And so I found that to be an unpleasant surprise because I felt like the game got this endless feeling to it. Like I just kind of wanted it to be done at a certain point. I was ready for it to be done. I never hated it.
Right.
But I just got to like chapters 6 and beyond, and I just kind of felt like, oh, wow, this game's still going. Okay, here we go. It's still going.
You're someone that likes movies but doesn't enjoy television so much.
Exactly. And I will say this is going to be a feature, not a bug for a lot of people, because this feels like a season of a crazy sci-fi show. Like this feels like a season of Stranger Things. Yeah, it just feels very episodic with its chapters too. It feels like every chapter is like an hour or two, like you're sitting down to watch an episode of a show. And there are cliffhangers. You want to jump into the next chapter because something wild just happened. So that is something the game does super well. I will say, though, that the story gets very complicated, and I cannot easily summarize what happens. It started to lose me by chapter 5 or 6 or so. The Drifter takes a really hard left turn into incomprehensible sci-fi for me. I maybe, again, this is because I was streaming it, but I just start to not care as much. It's a game whose story I loved at the start, and then I was kind of indifferent about the story by the end. So overall, I really credit the Drifter for being ambitious. I do think it kind of crumbles under the weight of its ambition a bit. It's a bit overlong and convoluted, but it's gritty, it's gorgeous. It's an exciting, great time all around. I know that this is overwhelmingly positive on Steam, and everyone who plays it seems to love it. I'm very positive on it. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Perfect.
I think there are lots of people out there that would give it a 9 or a 10 out of 10. So I recommend it. I think this is well worth playing. It's playable on PC, which is the version I played, Mac and Linux.
Interesting. I don't really have very many questions because I saw a lot of the gameplay. The dying and the looping... Is there like a failure point in this game?
Like where you have to reload your save or something?
Basically, yeah. Because like I was watching one part and the Drifter died quite a few times and remembered every time that he had died. And so like
I got into these loops where something is threatening to kill Mick and I have a little puzzle I've got to figure out. And sometimes doing the repeated death, because of the themes of the story, Mick does carry information or says something new when he arrives back after the reload. But I don't remember like a game over screen necessarily. I think there are just times where you die a lot and you're just repeating until you find the thing to do and the game stops spitting out like more information or new dialogue to you as you're dying is my memory of it. So yeah, there's going to be like the answer that progresses you and you just got to find that.
Yeah. Okay. And then it seemed like virtually every piece of dialogue is voice acted. Is there ever dialogue that is not voice acted?
I think it's all voice acted and it's all exceptional. I love the voice acting in this game. Yeah.
That's rad. Okay. That's all cool. I had.
And this game, you know, it might be a little unassuming just being a pixel art point and click game, but it's got weight to it. It's got emotional depth. It's got a strong presentation. It feels very cinematic. The music's really good. I didn't even really touch on that. I'm just amazed with how much cinematic quality is conveyed through the dialogue, the music, the writing. It's all very well done. So those are our secret games, Habroxia and the Drifter. Let's move on to our review of the Banner Saga. It is our featured game. The Banner Saga is a tactical RPG first released in 2014. It was developed by Stoic, and it was published by Stoic and Versus Evil. The game synopsis from the Steam storefront reads, quote, live through an epic role-playing Viking saga where your strategic choices directly affect your personal journey. Make allies as you travel with your caravan across this stunning yet harsh landscape. Carefully choose those who will help fight a new threat that jeopardizes an entire civilization.
I dreamt we never left home. Never had to run. We never had to kill. Why are we alive
when even the gods are dead. I awoke, and I knew why we're still alive. Because we choose to be.
So the Banner Saga is set in a Viking-inspired land where the sun has stopped working. And in this land, there are many villages. There's a sprawling landscape that's trapped in perpetual daylight. And this story involves dozens of characters. And there are a few primary races. There are humans, which, we know because we are human.
Been there, done that.
And then there are the Varl, which are these horned giants. And from the Banner Saga wiki, it says, quote, Varl are twice the height and girth of humans. So that can kind of help paint a picture in your mind. And there's some tension between these two kinds of races. But there are also the Dredge, which are the enemies of the game. They are a race of armored stone-like creatures. And the Dredge are wreaking havoc on humanity, and the Varl, they are the primary foes of the game. They are led by an especially formidable boss called Bellower, and we follow two camps of people in the Banner Saga. In the West, there's this group of Varl that include characters called Hakon, Wagner, and Ubin, and they're joined by some humans, notably someone named Eirik, and this group is leading a human prince named Ludin to a Varl capital to establish an alliance. So we've got a lot of characters that we're introduced to there. And then to the east, there is a hunter named Rook and his daughter Alette, and their village is attacked by the Dredge, and they venture out with their Varl friend Ivor and others to find safety. So we have two parties, two caravans basically traveling along this landscape. And we're switching between the two sides of this story. And there are other notable characters. There's a giant serpent that shows up from time to time. There are magical humans called Menders that play into the latter parts of the story. And there are just many, many supporting characters, people you meet along the way in your journeys. And the goal of the Banner Saga is to fight off the Dredge and find safety and hopefully not die.
Yeah. In the Banner Saga, as far as gameplay goes, you don't do too many insane active inputs. So for those unfamiliar, in a tactics battle system, you move your characters in a turn-based way on a grid in order to strategically fight against your enemies. Every character on the battlefield will have a certain range in which they can move and a certain range in which they can attack based on their attack. Every character will also have a set amount of armor and health. Sometimes you can decide to attack health directly, but you can also attack a character's armor in order to maybe bolster the next direct attack to health. So it's sort of a risk reward there. If you're attacking armor, you're not ultimately going to kill that enemy, but you can maybe boost the effectiveness of the next attack. So you get to strategize in that sense. Apart from the battles, you can equip items to your fighters that will add some sort of buff to your characters in battle. You can, quote, promote your characters by spending renown points. Renown points are earned by winning battles or sometimes through actions that you take elsewhere. But when you promote, that is essentially leveling up. You will get a few points to boost your choice of stats. You'll also be able to do all this when stopping in villages. Also, while stopped in villages, you can sometimes rest. You can spend your renown points on supplies, which in this case means like food for your caravan to eat on the journey. You can also spend renown points on equipment to equip to your fighters. And then lastly, while traveling between villages, you will have to make a lot of choices in some Oregon Trail style instances. That
I was
pop up.
hoping you'd mention Oregon Trail.
Heck yes.
That
I was
game came to
hoping
my
you weren't
mind.
going to give me like a look when I said it.
Oh
But
no, yeah, that I felt that many times. This game, and this is a big surprise because I didn't really know a lot about the Banner Saga's gameplay, but this game, just as like a quick elevator pitch for this game, it's like a Viking-inspired Oregon Trail like game with more of an emphasis on narrative and knowing your characters.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes those choices that you make in these Oregon Trail instances will have lasting consequences, including losing supplies, and even maybe some of your fighters possibly dying and being removed from the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I would say for gameplay. Did I miss something important?
This game has multiple sides to it, so you're constantly switching between narrative moments where characters are talking, you're seeing their portraits, and you see text. So we're reading the story. And then we might be in our caravan seeing a wide shot of our party like rolling along the landscape. We know what town or village they're heading toward, and then random events will happen. I actually don't know if they're random is the thing. It's kind of hard to know.
I'm
but
sure that they're not random, but I bet that there is like the further down the game you get, if you made a choice earlier that was this, then maybe this event won't happen. It'll be something else.
Yes. So one of the big factors in the game that I think the game touts a lot is the decisions you make, either in dialogue or when you're caravanning. Your decisions will craft a unique experience for you. And I don't have a strong sense of how variable your playthrough would be from mine, but this is something that they brag about on the game, is like, your save in the Banner Saga is special, and if you were to play the Banner Saga 2, it will take your save file and it will influence things in successive games too. So I find that very interesting. When we look at just some quick facts about the game, Stoic, the developer, was founded by 3 former BioWare staff members who kind of wanted to make something that was their own. And this game was successfully funded on Kickstarter in just 2 days. And because of the success, they were able to implement a lot more features. I think maybe just add more into the game, which is cool. And this is the first part of a trilogy. So if you finish the Banner Saga, your progress and storyline will carry over into the next game.
And I'll say this right now, that when you get to the end of the Banner Saga 1, it doesn't outright state that, but you do get the sense of that like if you play Banner Saga 2, it's just going to pick up where you left off. And I love that it was communicated without outright saying it, which I think is really cool.
There is a feeling that there's a finality here, but this is just the start. There could be more. Like there are some threads that still need to be explored. So I have ideas for what might happen next, or what characters might be in the spotlight coming up. But we haven't played the Banner Saga 2 and 3. And these are games that have been out now for a while. And so we'll get to them eventually. But DiscoCola, I have expectations about how you felt about this game.
Yeah.
I think there are parts of the game where I can definitely see you having problems. I can see you respecting certain things. I just want to hear it from your mouth.
Your word choice is really spot on.
I want to hear from your mouth. What are your thoughts on the Banner Saga?
All right. I'm going to jump right in to things that I liked about the Banner Saga. I think the art direction of this game is incredibly strong. I'd love if this team worked on an animated series of any kind. It doesn't even have to be the Banner Saga. I just think the artistic talent at play here is really strong. And yeah, it's all really impressive. And even though characters and stories like this can all sort of like blur together for me, I can have trouble distinguishing different Varl from other Varl and humans from other humans in these like high fantasy settings. I did find that the character design was really strong, and each illustration of each character like helped that individuality. And so I was able to distinguish them a little bit easier than I would have in other high fantasy settings.
Yeah, because the Varl, they're all these giants. They're like of equal size. They're like twice the size and girth, right, of a normal human. They all have horns.
Yeah.
They all have beards.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm going to mix these up, right? But It's the way their eyes look. It's what they're wearing. It's like their hair color
Yep.
changes.
And their horns will spiral in different ways.
Yes.
So they did a really good job of helping me identify different characters. Next, I actually really liked a lot of my Oregon Trail choices.
Oh.
You know me, I don't really like a lot of reading, but I found that the choices available in each scenario, the options available to you were diverse enough to allow me to role play whatever kind of leader I wanted to be. Like I could have been a harsher leader, I could have been a softer leader. And so I was really fascinated by the consequences of my action in many cases, especially in those like instances that were sort of hard decisions and I couldn't really predict in those moments. Like, you know, a lot of time I can kind of guess what might happen if I do this. In these instances, I don't know what's going to happen, so I don't know what I would do as a leader. And so it was really interesting to see what the consequences of those decisions were.
I think some of the most interesting choices in the game are when surprises happen, when your caravan is approached by someone who needs help.
Mm-hmm.
And you yourself, you're leading a town or a village that's on foot. You've got women and children who are starving, right? But now you've got some people who don't have a group like yours. Do you let them in? Do you tell them like, yeah, we'll feed you, but you have to earn your keep?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe there's something sketchy about them. And do you hesitate? Do you turn them away? There are interpersonal conflicts in your village too. Like two villagers will have a fight. Someone will have a vendetta against someone else. And the fighting will escalate maybe from one instance to another. And do you put them both in timeout? Do you punish the one who started it?
Mm-hmm.
Do you ignore it? Do you tell them to just like shut up and let's keep moving? And there are consequences depending on what you choose. So like, I am curious about like what kind of leader you were. I don't know if you want to cover that now or if
we can. Let's save that for a topic for later on, I think, because then we can both sort of dig in.
Yeah, let's do that.
That is where I have to move on, though, from likes to things that I didn't like so much. And I will say this, I don't have many strong complaints in regard to this game, but if I could point to a couple of things, I think some of the Dredge fights can be significantly unfair at times. Not only because some of them just like soak up hits really well, but also because they can summon new enemies. And in many cases, I'm fighting Dredge in a situation where I can opt for a second optional fight to reduce my casualties of my overall caravan.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time I'm opting to do those second fights, but it's just kind of like it's asking a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I did find that some of the Dredge fights were pretty unfair. Next, I couldn't really track the effects of equipment on my characters. At a certain point, I just kind of made sure that they had
something.
The highest level of something, you know.
I will say, even if you can't track the effects, most items in the game are going to be useful across the board.
Yeah.
Like whether you're controlling a human ranger or like a human melee person or a Varl, it's like as long as they have something. On average, it's going to help.
Yeah.
So at least there's that.
Next, I never really had a good sense of how long journeys between villages will be. And so I don't have a good sense for how much I should spend on supplies. So most of the time, I just buy as many supplies as I possibly can, which means I'm almost never buying equipables. So
interesting. So you're stockpiling those supplies, like the rations, basically.
In some cases, I had way more supplies than I needed. In others, I had nowhere near enough and only survived because of a scenario where other people joined my caravan and added their supplies to mine. And then at the end of the game, I was just 1 day short on supplies for the end of the game. So my caravan only went 1 day without food right at the end.
Yeah.
And so I made the right choices, I guess.
But you didn't know what random occurrences would happen.
Right.
You didn't know how many rations would be taken up from one village to the next. So you're really just like making these decisions blindly.
Yeah.
You're guessing.
And journeys between villages are not all the same. Like some of them are super long and some of them are just like 2 days.
Yeah,
So
and I had random occurrences where I'd get, plus 200 supplies, or I'd lose a bunch of supplies.
Yeah.
And so even if I had planned out a journey knowing how many days it might take, I can't account for that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just always spending my renown on food before anything else. And I guess it worked out in the end, but I wish I would have been able to strategize a little bit better. But what it all comes down to is that very little of this game actually appeals to me. That's not really an indictment of the quality of the Banner Saga. I just don't like these kinds of games. I'm a little bit grateful that we played this because, as I was mentioning earlier with our friend Caboose, this is a game where I was able to recommend it to our friend Red Oak, and I don't
Oh, I love it.
have a lot of like games where I get to like recommend to him
Yeah.
because we don't have a lot of those same game interests.
He loves Norse stuff. He loves Viking stuff.
Yeah, and his favorite game ever, as far as I know, this is still true, is Final Fantasy Tactics, and so it's got
Oh my
tactics
God.
battles.
There
too.
you go.
So,
Yeah.
it just made a lot of sense to recommend that to him. At the end of the day, I am impressed with the art direction of Banner Saga, and I was surprised by how much I enjoyed the scenarios while traveling. But at the end of the day, this just isn't my kind of game. It was a slow and dry experience for me. I did connect with some of the characters in some instances, and I'm grateful I played it on easy mode, because if I would have been struggling elsewhere, specifically in battles, I probably would have been way more frustrated instead of bored. But I am grateful to have been bored instead. I give this a 4.5 out of 10.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's like a very personal score.
Yeah.
That is.
This is not to say anything about the quality of the game, but I can't arrive at an objective like quality of game score if it's something I don't enjoy.
Yeah.
It's like if I'm listening to music and I just do not like the person's voice, I can't really give it a fair score, so it has to be a personal thing.
Yeah, and I always interpret our scores as being personal. It's a 4.5 for DiscoCola,
Yeah.
right? So I get what you mean. Moving on to my thoughts. Now I want to pitch something to you.
Okay.
Want to get your take on this. I feel like this is the fantasy Jack move of tactical RPGs.
Fantasy Jack move of tactical RPGs, and that it's relatively short and approachable.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Because I've played other tactical RPGs like Fire Emblem games that I think are a lot deeper, that are multiple times the length of this game. And I think this game only took me like 8 hours to play through. I love that length. And I hear you and others talk about Jack Move and how it is a JRPG that you can finish in under 10 hours, right? So that was just fresh in my mind from a conversation recently.
No, and I really appreciate that it is that length. And I actually appreciate the level of connectedness that I get with the characters in that short amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty impressive, like, given that there are dozens of characters, you can still connect with a couple of them. And I'm just like you, where I'm not connecting with a ton of characters, but there are a couple that I just really love. And I really just want to spend all my time with them. But I think having all the other characters in there too shows the scale of the world in a way. I also agree with you that like the animation and the characters' designs are super cool, both in dialogue and in battles. In dialogue, you're seeing the characters just sort of standing there, mostly idle. They might blink and look around, and their clothes kind of rustle in the wind. There's not a lot of movement. They don't have any voice actings. You're reading in this entire game. But then as you move into the battles, you're seeing them really come alive with how they move. When they get hit, the animation I think is just really impressive, and it makes me yearn for like this studio to delve into the animation like you called out. I really like how this game uses sound. And it's not sound that is necessarily super memorable. It's just in moments where you're looking at the portraits of the characters in dialogue and you're hearing ambient sounds like the wind, crackles of fire nearby, and it just adds something that's alive. And I think it's very restrained, and it's subtlety that goes a long way. I just think this game is very confident in sometimes not being loud, even though it's a game that's about these creatures attacking humans and Varl, and there are battles and wars going on. It's actually a very quiet game.
Yeah.
And I like that a lot, actually. I also really love how stats work in this game. I think this is one of those games where when you level up, you can assign your points and it doesn't really matter where your points go, which might sound like a knock, but it's actually great because it's hard to make a wrong choice.
Yeah.
I particularly love the strength stat where it's the amount of damage you'll do and it's your health. That is such a cool balance to try to remember and keep in mind. It took me a while to get used to it, but I haven't seen that in a ton of games. I also think exertion is really cool. This is how many extra willpower points you can spend toward doing a little bit more during a move. So I can put my points into these stats or any of the others. It's going to benefit me. And I think the systems for leveling up and managing gear are actually pretty streamlined. I'm not fumbling with things a lot. I think the DiscoCola approach of just like equip whatever the highest possible level of gear is to this character, I think that is valid. Like we're amassing an arsenal of like, trinkets that we can equip to our characters. And each of the trinkets is for a level 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 character. And characters only level up to 5, and that's it. And the leveling up is just based on how many kills that character has in their lifetime in battles. So it's really easy to see. It's not like an experience bar. It's a total number of kills. I just love how simple that is. It's hassle-free. I think there's a cool risk reward with the battle scenarios where do you want to keep fending off the Dredge for a chance at cool gear? And I always found that I got something cool for doing that second wave of fighting the Dredge.
That is where most of my gear came from because I wasn't buying it at the shops.
And that's great that you recognize that, because if you're spending all your renown points on rations, which I disagree that renown should be spent buying those. I think it should be another currency.
I agree, but that's not what the game did. So
It's not what the game did.
I'm not going to think of another system for it. This is just what we got.
Yeah, but if we had like if we had coins that we amassed and we could use that to buy rations and other things, I don't know. It just felt like my renown was sometimes really scarce. And so when you're spending your renown to buy those rations, I'm glad there's this other source to get equipment. So there is a way to get what you want, sometimes multiple ways to get what you want. And then like story-wise, I really like when the major factions of the game converge, not going into exactly what happens, but there's also the opportunity for different outcomes that I think is exciting. And I think it's just cool that my playthrough can look different from yours and from anyone else's who plays the game. And then I have quite a few dislikes too. In the Banner Saga, which is a tactical RPG, I don't feel particularly compelled to be tactical. I like the RPG stuff, but I am moving and I'm attacking. That's all I'm doing in the fights. I am not using the special skills terribly strategically. I'm not thinking like I've got to line up these enemies in a column so I can use this archer's like piercing shot. Oh, that'll be how I beat this battle. Otherwise, I'm going to have a really tough time. I just whack on people, right? I'm just hitting them. I'm bonking them, Disco.
Go bonk them.
I'm going to go bonk them. Reference to next episode a little early. And I feel like the game also keeps some of its mechanics a secret. So when it comes to resting and morale, I don't know how fast morale goes down. I don't know the implications for morale going down. I don't remember if the game told me. Maybe it did, but it got lost on me and I had to find out the hard way, I guess.
Can I say something about morale real quick?
Yeah.
We have the two different like caravans, right?
Uh-huh.
I never noticed morale being an issue with Hakon's
it was just
faction.
It was just the East's faction.
With Rook, it was like going down by one level each day, and so I was like really keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know if that is a false memory, but I just don't remember even paying attention to it until I was with Rook.
And also there's something just like demoralizing as the player when, as your caravan is moving, there's a day counter. There's like a circle and it fills. And when it fills, the next day starts. And it's like every day is 20 seconds or something.
Mhm.
And when the next day starts in Rook's camp, the morale just goes down over time, like you said.
Yeah.
Like it just, with the passage of time, morale goes down. And it's demoralizing to just see on my screen this like negative sound effect and morale down.
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't even do anything. I'm just going to the next place. So that's just how the story is. Like you're in an oppressive world, I guess.
Yeah. I hate traveling too, my guy.
I guess so, but there's not a lot I can do to control that other than resting and then having some good luck with some random encounters.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand resting at first. I thought I could only rest once per village. It didn't dawn on me at first that, oh, I can just keep resting to get my morale up. So that's something that I missed out on. And then similar to you, I didn't understand gear effects. It was only after I took the time to study the stats and what they truly meant and memorize them that I started understanding more. But the game uses abbreviation with the gear stats that I think is confusing. It like abbreviates words. It doesn't ever explain things with gear. The supplies and the implications of maintaining your population, I think, are vague. So the game does onboard you. There are tutorials. It just doesn't tutorialize enough, or it doesn't keep doing the tutorials as you get introduced to new things for long enough, in my opinion. There are choices that lead to random outcomes of various fortune, too. I get punished sometimes for doing good deeds, or at least trying my hardest, and then I get blessed arbitrarily. So this is where it feels like Oregon Trail. I think the game wants you to care about your decisions, and it wants you to relish the fact that like your decisions are leading to your own outcomes. But I could really do my best to help out in a situation in a way that makes sense for my morals. And it might result in a character just dying. And I didn't even like see that coming, right? And I'm fine with someone just dying suddenly. I think that's a very confident choice and a very interesting choice. But this leads to another dislike I have, which is where I feel like this game sometimes deals with big moments with no emotion. This game is almost indifferent about these very impactful things happening, like a character dies, and I'm just reading about it. And I was just controlling this character in a battle like 5 minutes ago, and they were level 5, and I loved using them, and now they're dead. And again, they can die, but the game doesn't have any like heft to it. There's no weights, you know, like things just happen and it's just emotionless.
Yeah, I might be thinking of the same moment as you right now. And I did get, if this is the same moment, I did get some weight from it because while I was still just only reading it happen in a text box, one of the characters that piped up was largely, I won't say cold, but not expressive really in a way. But when they saw their friend die, you know, they expressed a strong emotion. And that's where I got weight from that moment, if it's the same moment. But
I'm thinking of a character death, but I'm also thinking of multiple things.
Yeah.
It happens multiple times in the game. And sometimes it's just losing a large amount of your village too. Just like
I agree with you in those moments for sure.
Yeah, like people will go missing, people will run off, people will die, like swaths of people will suffer. It's like, okay, but I'm just reading about it and there's an indifference that the game takes with it. I think it could have really leaned into the emotion more when these things happen. That would have kept me more invested in the well-being of people here. And then there are so many characters going on in this game that I found it hard to majorly invest in them other than some of my favorites like Rook and Alette, the father-daughter. I think they have a really interesting story. There's a choice with them near the end of the game that I think is very powerful. And they're the emotional core for me in the game. But they're surrounded by scores of not forgettable people, but just people that aren't going to stand out. So for me, overall, the Banner Saga is admirable for being a very digestible tactical RPG with a stunning world. I didn't love this game, but it was really cool to be a decision maker, and it's always switching up what it does between telling a story and letting you manage your party and battling in a very effective tactical RPG gameplay experience. So for me, the Banner Saga is a 7.5 out of
Okay.
10.
Cool.
Yeah, back to the question of what kind of leader were you? Because we're playing these characters that are the leaders of their factions, leaders of their groups, of their villages, trying to survive. Like, how did you handle dilemmas and challenges?
Well, it's actually a little bit different between the two camps even.
Mm.
I don't remember as much of my decisions with Hakan, but I think that I played him as just someone that was grumpy and wanted to get to the next gas station.
Yes, he looks grumpy.
Yeah.
Yes.
But when I was Rook, played him pretty soft, pretty understanding, pretty compassionate. I just think he looks like a gentle character. He's a father. And so I, was able to relate to him just a little bit more in general. So that's sort of how I played him. And in most cases, that worked out for me a lot. There is one scenario with Rook and this character that I brought into the camp and was actually on my main party for a long time, but eventually betrayed me, which I
Yes.
wasn't expecting.
I had something like that happen.
And
Yeah.
ultimately, found solace in this character that I sort of expected to betray me, but
Yeah,
then didn't.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a character that I was not happy about being near.
Yeah, I didn't want to kill him because that's not the character I'm playing as Rook. But
There's something in our playthroughs of the Banner Saga that reminds me of what happened with me and Kuno in Disco Elysium.
Okay. Which I still haven't looked up, by the way. I listened to that episode last week,
Whoa,
actually.
Cool.
So anyways, yeah, as Rook, I was a much more gentle, much more soft and compassionate character. And a lot of the time I was able to find answers for most scenarios that worked out, that brought people into the camp, that added supplies to everybody, that resolved fights in a way that was best for all parties. And only in a couple cases did I lose people that took supplies, really. But that's about the worst that it got as far as leadership decisions. I did lose one character that died. And based on what you said, I don't know if the situation would have changed based on choices. That character might have been doomed.
I think there's a scripted death of a significant character early on, but then there's another character that I can't tell if it's scripted or not, and that's the one that felt really emotionless and sudden, and the game was just sort of getting through it as fast as it could.
Is this, in your case, is this related to a amount of supplies going off of a cliff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, yeah. Good.
That
good
one
way to
I can't
hide it.
tell if it's scripted because I lost that character too.
Okay. But it wasn't as significant of a loss as another story moment that happens, I think, even before it. But that's another thing. I played Rook very similarly at first, but I found that I evolved or devolved. I was very patient, trying to find that solution that was best for all parties and in the interest of the group and the village. But I wasn't stockpiling the rations, the supplies like you were, because I ran out of renown. Because I was using renown to buy items, kind of equally as supplies. So you said you had one day in game where people were starting to starve. I started to hit that point several days before the end.
Okay.
If I got to the final destination on day 130, it started happening on day 115. I was out of supplies. I was like, oh no, I didn't prepare enough. And so that meant that my decisions on whether to stay and help someone or to keep going and just race to my destination were guided by the fact that I just was out of stuff. And so I started saying no, stop talking to me, we're going. Or like, there's a fight going on, break it up, we're going. And that often led to even more heartbreak, even more challenges.
Dang.
So it's a slippery slope, I think.
Yeah.
But it's hard, again, it's hard to know how long is it between this village and this village?
Yeah.
I just don't know.
You know, I did get to one point. There was one battle that I was like losing multiple times in a row. And again, I played a huge majority of this on easy mode.
Mm-hmm.
And like one of the options it gives you when you lose the game is not restart from check. You do get restart from checkpoint, but you also get a third option, which is restart from a previous save. And what that says to me is that this game plans on occasionally being so hard or, you know, forcing you into tough situations where it's totally an appropriate response to abandon your entire playthrough and start over.
Like you're locked.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So even though I didn't have to do that, I didn't care that that might be the philosophy of the game. I
didn't run into that. I happened to not ever lose my whole party during a fight.
Nice. Excellent.
So I wasn't sure what that situation looked like, but there were times where I had a random encounter, or like, you know, I'm using quotations around random encounter, but I had an encounter, right? And I made a decision and I was kind of curious about what the alternative might be. And I thought, I'll just load up my autosave, or like my most recent save. And the game very constantly autosaves.
Wow.
So like when you make a decision, it does not seem like it wants you to go back unless you've lost your whole party in a fight, is my
So
sense.
that might
Like
be
based
the
on what you've said.
philosophy, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very curious if the following two games handle it that way. I assume so. But I'm also really curious about how our choices will carry on into the Banner Saga 2.
And you know what? I pulled up, because I can't remember anybody's name. I pulled up a list of characters here for the Banner Saga, and our gentleman that goes over the cliff appears in later Banner Saga games.
Whoa!
So not scripted, apparently.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Big respect for that. Yeah. So I don't really know how to compare and contrast what we experienced, unfortunately, because like
without spoilers, at least. Yeah.
Without spoilers, but also because I don't know where variables start and end in this game. I don't know what's always going to be scripted. I guess that's kind of nice, having a little mystery, because I'm not paying attention to it as much. I'm just focused on my experience. But I also want to I almost want there to be some level of what Telltale games do, for instance, where at the end of a chapter in a Telltale game, it'll list out the 5 major decisions you made in that chapter. And it might even tell you this percentage number of players agreed with you and did what you did, or this percentage of players went with this other option. I kind of want some under the hood stats there, because it's just kind of hazy about how that's working in the Banner Saga.
Something I wouldn't mind discussing are like favorite relationships. Like we mentioned Rook and Alette.
Oh,
but are there other relationships or like dynamics in our characters that you were really interested in?
I have to look up names.
I can start.
Yeah.
We encounter a character named Akil, and a character named Onef. And the dynamic that they create with Rook is really interesting and spans multiple chapters. I actually really like the antagonistic sort of relationship that Hakan has with the prince. What's his name?
Ludin. Yeah.
I kind of like their sort of antagonistic relationship, and I find it pretty funny. And then a character named Oldleaf has an unexpected dynamic with Rook that I kind of liked too.
I really loved Oddleaf's relationship with not just Rook, but with the village, because Oddleaf did this.
She does something really cool to just like pull her weight, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's something that brings in other people, like unnamed people from the village.
Yeah.
And I always encouraged that because I thought that could lead to opportunities that people couldn't see for themselves until there was water on the plant to let it grow. Like I want to see this plant grow, see what happens. And Oddleaf did that, and it brought a character to the forefront that I don't know would ever have been named or shown had Oddleaf not been encouraged to keep doing what she was doing.
Yeah.
So that's a character I really like. There's a character in one of the camps that was kind of a magic user, and she was not around in my playthrough as much as I wanted her to be, but I liked how characters were treating her and how she treated them back.
Okay.
It's like, I think I can say this, it's a character that's referred to as a witch. Did you have someone like that?
Yeah, because of the fire arrows?
Yeah, the fire.
Yeah.
The fire, but she didn't stay around in my playthrough. She like went away.
Yeah, mine too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to see more about her. I hope she returns. This is like a Marvel Cinematic Universe, like this character will return in the Banner Saga 2. What I was thinking of are Juno and what's the other Mender's name?
Ivand.
Juno and Ivand, when they had a moment together, I'm like, I want a whole game about them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's super interesting. So I hope we learn more about them coming up. Tiny situations will sometimes grow later. Like that was the case with the guy who sort of double-crossed us that we didn't think would ever be a problem.
Yeah.
I didn't really think about that guy. I was using that guy in my party so much that he got to like level 4 or 5.
I was in the same boat.
Yep. So I do appreciate too that when a character goes away or is not available or changes sides, there are other characters coming up that will fill their slot.
Mm-hmm.
There are more supporting characters always on the horizon, and they will be people that you can then level up. So that's a way the game is staying fresh. You're not just leveling up characters to level 5 and they're safe forever. You're getting new people. They might start at level 1 or 2, and they have different abilities. So I guess that's kind of a hallmark of tactical RPGs.
Okay.
We're always kind of changing who we're playing with, and the game is just naturally suggesting that we should, change what we do. We're not getting too comfortable.
Okay. I'm very often, most of the games that I play in this genre are either monster collectors, first of all, or you just have the same team the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think it's very challenging to keep the same 5 or 6 people in your party and just always roll with them. And they're all level 5. I don't know how I would do that. It'd be very difficult. So yeah, someday I would like to review the Banner Saga 2 on our show. I'm enthusiastic about it because now I'm invested, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my favorite story. It's not my favorite world. I think there are large parts of this game that are kind of shallow feeling.
Yeah.
And I identified with what you said in some of your concluding thoughts where you said like it was dry or it was shallow. Is that what you said?
I said it was a slow and dry experience.
Slow and
for me.
dry experience. Yeah. I kind of identified with that too, but the dynamics between the characters and the choices we've made have me invested enough, I think.
I will be blunt. I'm not looking forward to it. At the same time, there are next to no games I've ever played that take your save file from your previous game and do something with it.
Yeah.
So just from the mechanical nature of that, I'm interested to see how it appropriates my choices from the previous game into a second game. Plus, I already have it.
There you go. You got the trilogy. So that is one tiny piece of BioWare DNA that the developers carried from their previous experience. A lot of BioWare games allow you to take choices from one game to the next.
Okay.
So like the Mass Effect games, that was a wildly popular feature of those games when they came out, like between Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, your choices carry over. And so I really like that they took sensibilities and their strengths from the AAA world and they brought them into this small studio that they crafted in a very different looking game too.
The only game I ever played before that did anything remotely similar were the Infamous games, the first 2 Infamous games. And I never even actually finished Infamous 2 or barely even played it. But
Yeah. Oh, did Infamous 2 carry over stuff from
it did,
first
yeah.
game?
And
Okay.
it was mostly just like your alignment, as far as I know, your alignment and skills that you unlocked.
Gotcha.
But
I remember back in the day, it blew my mind when I would play a Ratchet and Clank game and it would detect save data from previous Ratchet and Clank games on my memory card, and it wouldn't change the story, but it might give me an item
yeah,
from the shop.
that's really cool.
Because it just knew I had played the previous game. So
Yeah.
I guess that's like a more simpler, earlier iteration of it.
In Mega Man X8, if you play that game and you have save data for Mega Man X Command Mission, you get to fight an 8-bit Cutman.
Oh, cool. I love stuff like that. Yeah, it doesn't always have to be substantial. It doesn't always have to be an earth-shifting thing. I think it's just a nice nod and really considerate when you're rewarding people for being devoted.
Yeah.
Is what it feels like.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, that seems like a good place to wrap up.
Yeah.
So that's our review of the Banner Saga. You can play it on PC, Mac, Linux, Switch, PS4, Xbox One, Android, and iOS. DiscoCola rated it a 4.5. I rated it a 7.5. That's the end of this episode of Underplayed. You can find more of our episodes at kzum.org/underplayed and on common podcast platforms. Our music was composed by Jack Rodenberg. Our art comes from Onimochi. Check out our show notes where you can find and follow us across social media. Underplayed is on Bluesky, Instagram, and Threads. You can also find my links down below, and I stream a variety of indie games on Twitch.
And I am at DiscoCola in many of those places as well, including Backloggd, where I have a list of games with literal loan sharks. And I believe it's 2 games right now, so help me add to that.
Yes, it's Another Crab's Treasure and Gemporium, so I'm sure there are more out there. Next time, we will have 2 more secret games to review, and our featured game will be Gravity Circuit, an action platformer developed by Domesticated Ant Games. Until then, everyone, keep on playing.